Since first stepping in front of Much Music's national cameras in 1992, Bill Welychka has become one of Canada's most recognizable and respected TV personalities. His memoir, A Happy Has-Been, chronicles his exciting times and lessons learned during the over 500 interviews Bill has done with film stars, musicians, royalty, and politicians. Much music icon Bill Welychka joins me in the studio to talk about the just-released second edition of A Happy Has-Been. Bill, thank you for joining me today.
Oh my God, thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I'm excited to talk to you about this edition. Can you tell me specifically what's been done to this second edition that your avid readers may not see in your first edition?
Well, when the first edition came out a couple of years ago, April, it was humbling to be on these book tours and meeting all these people that all had comments, and it was beautiful hearing the comments about what Much Music meant to them or what some interview that I had done 30 years ago meant to them, and a lot of stories were coming up that I thought, oh, I forgot about that. I should have put that in the first book. And then I started being asked about, oh, you should do a second edition because I love the first one. So I thought, okay, and one day I just started adding to it, the middle, with all these stories. And then since the first book came out, so much has happened. Losing a job here in Kinsgton, losing TV and radio, hearing all the comments from the book tours. It was a bestseller. And so I thought, okay, it needs an afterword. And I start the afterword by saying, and this is gruesome and I'm sorry, but if I was hit by a truck tomorrow and died, the story, that would suck, but the story wasn't complete. So now the story is complete. So, which is why there's a second edition.
So talk a little bit about, you've mentioned a little bit about the changes that have occurred since the first edition. Can you specifically say what those are, some of those things are?
In terms of losing a job?
No, let's talk about things that you gained.
Oh, yeah, there was, I did like well over 200 interviews for the first book, and a lot of the same things kept coming up, and a lot of those comments were what Much Music meant to them, what it meant to Canada, what it meant to the industry, what it meant to pop culture. And while promoting the book, this Much Music documentary came out that I was in. While I was promoting the book, a Much Music stamp came out, and I kept getting calls to be interviewed about Much Music's contribution to Canadian pop culture. And my theory is always you need 10, 20 years away from something to look back fondly. And certainly while you're in the middle of it, you don't think what you're doing is anything special. I'm interviewing rock stars for a living, traveling the world. Yeah, it's fun, what a great life. There's more to it than that, but it's not until you hear the comments from people where, like, I was your baby. You were my babysitter growing up. What? That's so weird. Thank you, but that's odd. Or I watched that interview you did with The Cure, or I saw your Cure special with Robert Smith, and my God, I love that band. I became a fan watching one of your interviews. And all those little things, they add up, and they make you feel grateful. It's very humbling, like I said, but it makes me realize maybe what we did back in the day meant something and did contribute something. And people love nostalgia. I do too. I don't want to live in the past. I think the future is much more exciting. But I think the book touched people in that place that people feel fond looking back in that nostalgic sense. Mm-hmm. And it was beautiful. I heard all sorts of comments from all different kinds of people that I wanted to express thank you as well to people for their beautiful comments.
Always talking to rock stars, being part of that scene, etc. So I think music all the time, and Bill. But travel went along with music. And that was an important part of your life as well, correct?
Oh my God, it was the best part, I think, in a lot of ways. What Much Music did for a couple of decades was we opened up people's eyes to a lot of new music, and that meant traveling to Australia, traveling to England, in some cases following the UN or World Vision to different projects around the world where they were saving lives. And we got to tag along and shoot those projects and somehow find music and culture in these countries. Countries I would have never had a chance to visit, even Canada, like going from coast to coast in some cases, and interviewing people and then coming home with these tapes of an interview, Shania Twain in Switzerland, as an example, or being on the road with Blue Rodeo for a couple of days and hanging out with them on the bus from Regina to Winnipeg. So all these experiences, and you meet people, and you have experiences that not a lot of people get a chance to experience, and you don't take it for granted. You look back and you think, I was the luckiest person in the world, and it was the greatest job in the world. And you learn things. You learn about culture, you learn about people, you learn about countries, you learn about geography, you learn about food. And yeah, that was, I'm grateful for the time that I got to experience it, because sadly, nothing could recreate those times now in a station like that. There was no YouTube. People went home to watch much music, to watch music videos, and to watch music interviews.
So there, Bill, there was experiences which turned into stories. Can you tell me, is there a story, a chapter in the book that was difficult for you to write?
I talk about depression in the book. I've had it for most of my life. I know what works for me, and that is antidepressants, and I'm not a doctor, I can't prescribe antidepressants. I can just share my experiences. And it never leaves you. Sometimes that black cloud comes to visit, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's how you cope with it, and talking about it helps. So when someone says, do you mind if we talk about that? No, of course, it is important. And I think it's important for anyone going through it, that they might feel alone, and to hear someone else talk about it, you realize, okay, I'm not alone. What I'm experiencing is something that other people have experienced. And I heard from people that thanked me for writing about depression in the book as well. And I think, well, good. I'm glad. That's the idea.
Good.
To get people to talk about it.
How about the most exciting or fun chapter you've written about in your book?
I think it's looking back at a lot of favorite moments from interviews, because there's been so many, and I never have a great answer when someone says, who's your favorite interview? This one is. With April's my favorite interview. But anyone that I was a fan of growing up, and I had a lot of patches on my jean jacket and a lot of buttons, and I've interviewed everyone. And saying something the other day to someone about this topic, and that is, here we are in Kinsgton, and I love Kinsgton. And in some ways, the book is a love letter to Kinsgton and our region. But the Tragically Hip is a great example. I've been interviewing them since the mid-90s. I've probably interviewed them more than anyone in the world at this point. And I consider myself a huge fan of the band. But what moving to Kinsgton has inadvertently allowed me to do is sort of solidify friendships with the band and their families, which is beautiful. And I know, again, not a lot of people get that opportunity to meet their idols, to spend time with their idols. And so that's been a beautiful thing all these years later, is to look back and realize, and I've said it in the book, I think, I take a bullet for these guys, because they're also beautiful and gracious with their time, and they believe in charity as well, and they do it quietly. They don't want a whole lot of recognition. And I love the guys, so that's just one example of how music and people who create the music are important to me.
And if somebody buys your book, that's evident in what is on the forwarding, the opening pages before you go into. Yes, absolutely. I want to close by quoting you. I can't imagine a world without music. Bill, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, April. BillWelychka.ca if anyone wants to learn more about the book. But thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you.